Welcome to the Real People, Real Business Show. My name is Stephanie Hayes, and I'm a business strategist who loves to speak with like-minded entrepreneurs to share their real stories and the gritty details on building their businesses. On this show, you won't hear about the glamorized entrepreneurship journeys that you see online. You won't be told how to make six figures in 6 weeks. Instead, you can expect to hear real, vulnerable, and inspiring stories that you can relate to that have helped create the foundation for each of our guests' businesses. Goodbye, boss babes, and hello, real life entrepreneurs. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Andrew Wolgemuth. Andrew is an entrepreneur with a vision for reinventing the jewelry industry. Andrew grew up in the jewelry industry with two entrepreneurial parents who started a small jewelry shop when he was a child. Andrew started Wove while serving in the U.S. Army Rangers by sending realistic replicas to his friends overseas who were looking to purchase a ring while on deployment. He's currently the founder and CEO of Wove, and he previously served as the platoon leader and deputy commander in the U.S. Army's 75th Ranger Regiment, leading a team of 40 special operators in unconventional environments around the world. Welcome to the show, Andrew, and thanks so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Thanks so much for having me, Stephanie. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and talk about a juxtaposition. So we've got jewelry and the Army. So I need to hear the whole backstory. Tell me how you got to where you are now.
People oftentimes give my co-founder and I funny looks when they hear that two Rangers are going to start a jewelry company. I was never really planning on joining the jewelry industry. I always wanted to be in the Army, and after college decided that was the route that I was going to take. And on my last deployment to Afghanistan in the summer of 2018, many of my friends that were deployed with me in the Ranger Regiment wanted the opportunity to buy an engagement ring while they were deployed so that when they got back and stepped off the plane, they could drop to a knee and propose. And the problem became shipping an engagement ring to an APO address in Afghanistan. No one was really willing to take the risk on seeing if the ring showed up or not. And so what we started doing is doing remote design consultations with my family's business, building exact replica rings of those designs that looked and felt indistinguishable from what the final ring would look like. And that gave them the opportunity to, one, buy with confidence, propose with the replica ring, and then get their partner's feedback after the proposal to see if they wanted to make any changes before building the final ring. And so really that was the earliest version of our company. We had a lot of exciting traction early on with friends and family. And then in the middle of the pandemic, we also found that when jewelry stores were closed, even more people around the United States were asking for this service. But at that point, it was still very much word of mouth. And Wove, the company that we are known as today, we officially launched just under a year ago. And it's been a challenging but exciting year. So many stories, so many lessons learned, but excited to share with you our story.
I love this. It's just such a typical, beautiful entrepreneurial story of seeing an opportunity with a problem that not a lot of people would really think about unless they're kind of there immersed in it, right? I think it's Albert Einstein that said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes about the solution, right? So we really have to be totally immersed. And I guess, you were absolutely immersed. And so, from idea to conception, how did you manage to figure out how to logistically start making this thing happen while you're deployed?
So I never really planned on being in the jewelry industry. We really started small, utilizing my family's business to manufacture, design these rings on a really small scale. And whoa, we really had to kind of figure it out as we went. In the earliest versions of what we were doing, we were outsourcing every aspect of the design and production to other jewelry companies, typically on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia. And even up until about 8 months ago, most of our production was outsourced. So that was a great way for us to test our idea without spending a ton of money. Without having to develop the infrastructure, hire a ton of full-time employees. It was really a great way for us to brainstorm and figure out what our clients actually wanted before investing. If I could have spent my 55 minutes of an hour focused on developing exactly what clients want before the action of building that thing, we probably would have saved a lot of headache along the way. I think we're on like the fourth or fifth iteration of our digital product experience and of our customer product path. And a lot of things you just don't know until you know. But I really like that quote.
Yeah, you know what? I just saw it last night actually, and it was, it just really resonated with me. I actually no, I saw it yesterday, I do a lot of work around innovation strategy and innovation management, and so it was kind of embedded in one of the books that I was reading. But it's so true, right? It's the immersion that makes us progress faster. And I think a lot of people kind of wait and they try to have all the right information and they try to do all the studying and all the data and collect as much information before they actually take a step forward. But you didn't come from a real formal like business education. This was instinct.
Not at all. And so, I really went about 7 years between my time at West Point, a very academic environment, to starting Wove. And while the Army is great at instilling, leadership lessons and values, I certainly wasn't getting a business education while in the service. And so I think a lot of my intuition for entrepreneurship comes from watching my parents start a jewelry store. That was a very focal point of my childhood for me and my siblings. We lived in the jewelry store until I was in, I think, like 8th grade. And so I can like distinctly remember a lot of our weekends and evenings were spent working in the jewelry store. As a kid, my bedroom was above the showroom. I can remember my parents running upstairs telling us to keep it down because we had customers. You don't require a, world-class MBA to start a business. A lot of it is, learning as you go, being resilient enough to pick yourself up when things aren't working well, and just keep driving forward and trying things until it works. For us, our earliest customers were friends, but once we went to scale our business, you really have to fight for customers. And it's one of the things I love about your show. I listened to a few episodes, is just the realism of, entrepreneurship is not this big, shiny object. It's a ton of work. And it's hard. Entrepreneurship is a challenge.
It absolutely is. And I have an MBA, so I can validate that, you can certainly get by without one. And I have a lot more theory and, my MBA was focused on entrepreneurship and management of technology. So it was like at least close to this stuff, but there's absolutely nothing that will replace the real world experience. And you have to just know that you're just going to be in the shit for a while, right? You're just going to have to be experiential. And I think we come from these corporate jobs or, corporate experiences where, you do all the research first and then you act, but that's not how this works.
Since we're throwing quotes around, one that one of my mentors gave me this week that I think speaks to exactly what we're talking about is that, let me see if I can get this right, is that success is fleeting, but failure is never final. I think it's kind of a play on a Winston Churchill quote, but I lean on that a lot. And it's kind of like, don't let your highs be too high and your lows be too low. Continue to run the race, and ultimately, you'll get there. But it's been an exciting couple of years for us. We launched, I said, in December. We're in the process. We just closed a seed round of funding recently, and are in the process of putting out some new digital products to help our consumers. But what's like really unique about what we do, we're the only jewelry company that exists that does custom replicas of our engagement rings. And so what our process looks like, if a customer comes to our site today, they will do a 30-minute design consultation with one of our in-house jewelry designers, hand sketch of that design in 24 hours. If they like that design, we'll go ahead and build them a replica and send it to them in 7 days. And really, this gives them an opportunity to see their design in person, know exactly what it'll look like, test drive it, wear it around the house, ask the opinions of those people that you care about, And ultimately, when you're ready, we will help you build the final ring, source the diamond. So if you go skiing at Whistler, or if you want to go to a different country, you don't have to risk losing your expensive engagement ring. You can wear the travel one instead.
So I'm glad you said this, because as you know, I'm a business model designer. And as I was, listening to you talk, I'm like, this isn't just about deployments, right? This isn't just like you started with this one key problem that you were trying to solve, but now look at all of the other applications. Like I'm a loser, and I don't mean that in the sense, I mean, I lose things, right?
Oh,
And
yeah. So do I.
and it would be like, I never wore my wedding ring. I never wore my engagement ring because I was terrified of losing it. And, I would have worn a replica if I was out doing something, going kiteboarding or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you
And
know?
my wife has lost or shattered hers so many times, but it is like it serves multiple purposes. One, I think it gives people the confidence what they're getting is exactly what they want, versus having to put up thousands of dollars. You only see photos of it, and you hope what shows up is actually what you want to wear the rest of your life. A lot of people that are already engaged and married come to us asking, "Can you build a replica of my ring? Like, I really want a replica." And unfortunately, we're not in the business of building replicas, but I think for our clients that come to Wove, it's just an added bonus in working with our team. And the other thing I was going to say too is, a lot of what we offer is an experience, not just a product. Couples want this experience of designing something together. And so what a better way to start that process than, designing a ring together and going through this full immersive design experience as a couple. Like, that's really cool to me. And I love that we get to play a special part in couples' lives when they're at this momentous occasion in their life.
So walk me through this. So let's say I am deployed overseas and I want to come back with an engagement ring. How does the design process work if I'm remote?
Yeah. So, well, and I'll say this first, like we started with veterans, but we are not, we love working with veterans even today, but this is not a company just for veterans. This is a company for all couples. And today we market to couples around the US and Canada that are interested in designing a custom engagement ring. But for the service members that were deployed overseas, it would be the exact same experience that a couple would experience in their house today in the United States or Canada. It's all over Zoom call, all of the meetings. And then we get your address and we ship a realistic replica ring to your house in 7 days. And that's really, how it works. Designing with the help of a jewelry designer. We send you multiple design iterations. Once you decide on one, send you the replica. Once you approve that, we send you the final ring.
And so it's really like I can have it on and see how it looks on my fingers, because,
Oh my gosh, it looks and feels indistinguishable from the final thing. You
yeah.
would not be able to tell the difference. A lot of people think that they are. I'm holding up a ring on my Zoom screen right now. But essentially, you would not be able to tell the difference unless you were a certified gemologist. I mean, I look at diamonds every day, and it is very difficult for me to tell the replica from the final. The replica is a little bit lighter, but essentially what we're doing is we are utilizing the same production process for our replica rings as we use for final rings. We're just substituting non-precious materials. So, instead of it being a platinum ring with diamonds, we're casting it in brass, we're plating it in white gold to give it the same color as what the real one would look like. And then we set it with a material called cubic zirconium, which is a material that looks very similar to diamonds. It refracts light very similarly. And so it gives you this beautiful, realistic look that's really exciting, and people fall in love with it. But it is funny. A lot of people, when they first hear that they're getting a replica, they think it's going to be some plastic 3D printed ring, and they're very pleasantly surprised when they see what arrives.
But I'm thinking also for the the poor folks who are doing the surprise engagement, whether they're service members or not, and they're just not sure if they got the right design. So if
Yeah,
I'm understanding correctly, they can have the replica made first and then, do their engagement. And if the wearer, and I say that because I'm the one who proposed to my
sure.
ex-husband, but if the wearer is not like fully happy with it, they can go through a design process without, losing the investment that they've made in the original ring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's so great about our process is it's highly flexible. So something that surprises a lot of people is that 70% of couples today buy their engagement ring together. And that's shocking to a lot of people. I think some older generations would be blown away by that statistic. But really, what our process offers is the flexibility for couples to choose kind of how they want to design. So, for instance, a lot of times, most of the time, I would say both couples design the ring together, and then one partner will kind of drop out of the process once they get to diamond selection and price starts to get involved. One partner will pay, receive the ring, propose, but the ring itself is not a surprise. The proposal is a surprise. And so that's exciting to a lot of people. It kind of takes the stress out of buying a ring that they'll love, and instead, focusing on that moment of how am I going to propose to this person.
So tell me, so you mentioned that you've just gotten some funding and you are now scaling the business. So tell me a little bit about how you went, like when did you make that decision that that was going to be the route? And what's been your process for, like, how did you, I own a software company. We actually have decided not to go for funding and we
Yeah,
wanted to grow and bootstrap. And we knew that that was going to have limitations in terms of how far we could scale, but it was a lifestyle choice. We're all old. But for
absolutely.
you, tell me a little bit more about that process for, deciding to go for funding and how that went.
I think it's a question that every founder should really seriously consider, whether they bootstrap or whether they choose to raise venture. And you kind of mentioned it, but the pros and cons being, if you bootstrap it, you own 100% of your company, you don't report to anyone in theory. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you get all of the reward if the company succeeds or fails. With a venture, the major benefit being you get funding up front. Downside is you give up a percentage of your company. So for us, we knew with what we wanted to build, we would have to, we needed capital, and we needed capital for the manufacturing process. And we also felt like if we wanted to compete in a direct-to-consumer e-commerce environment, we were going to need capital to win in the online advertising space. And so we made a very intentional decision early on to raise venture funding. So we decided that about essentially from the beginning, we raised 850,000 last summer as a pre-seed, and then we closed a $3 million seed round this past fall. So a lot of that capital will go to growing our team, manufacturing, and creating a digital user experience on the software side and web development side that can allow our customization process to scale. And so that's really why we chose to raise venture funding. We want to grow as quickly as we can, as big as we can. And oftentimes that model requires significant capital to grow.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's a business decision that I think a lot of people. I work with a VC in building out their side of like investorpreneurs, right? And this is taking specifically the bootstrappers and helping them, get to a sale and get to money. And I think a lot of people are not aware of their options and that they can still continue to have success and build a business and exit a business even without taking on, venture capital, right? So it's quite a process, and it's not for the light, the lighthearted, I guess, not the lighthearted, the faint of heart.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, raising capital is a slog. And
Mhm.
honestly, I hate it because what it does is it pulls you away from actually building your company.
That's right.
So it's certainly something to weigh in on if you decide to raise venture. We were fortunate that we were at a position where at the time that we raised, I had a and I still have I have an amazing co-founder, but we were able to delineate tasks in a way where we could go out and fundraise. But it is a challenge. It really doubles your workload. I mean, I think we've pitched for every yes that we received, we probably received 40 no's. And so, you end up pitching hundreds of times to different venture capital firms, angel investors. You get really good at pitching. But ultimately, you want to get really good at building a business and not building and presenting pitch decks, albeit important. So I think it's 100% just a consideration that all founders should have if they decide to take that route.
Yeah, it's a full-time job getting funding.
Mm-hmm.
For a
It's
while.
also just demoralizing. I mean, the truth of the matter is there are moments where you lose faith. You have to be careful not to lose faith in your own idea. So you start to think, hey, am I building something worthwhile? And so I think it's really important to stick to your conviction, and continue to believe in what you believe despite having lots of no's thrown at you. We were pitching about 3 times a day to different firms, and it was just a lot of work. And luckily, I have a great co-founder that I can lean on, and we comforted each other when we had a series of no's in a row. But ultimately, I think the hard work will pay off, and we got lucky.
So that's a really good question. I mean, I've been through that many times, and it's hard. I worked in a lot of startups. I have led a lot of startups, and that funding round is tough. So how did you stay focused and believe in your idea when you're in the face of so many no's?
I think I had a really strong conviction in what we were building because of my deep understanding of the customer journey when it comes to engagement rings. And for me, I had the opportunity. Not all founders have this level of background in what they're building. But I was so fortunate that I grew up in a jewelry store, and having no intention of starting a jewelry startup, what I got to witness is hundreds, if not thousands, of couples navigating this experience, both in my family's jewelry store, but also, through friends and family that were navigating this process on their own. And so being able to have a deep understanding of customer pain points, all these buzzwords that people throw around, but really understand the customer journey. And I had full conviction that what we were building was better than the next best alternative on the market. And so that really was what I leaned in on, through a series of no's. But yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about already, beat this to death, but understanding who you're working with and what they need is absolutely critical. It's the number one thing you can invest in. And speaking of investment, so now you have money, and what's the path to growth for you?
Yeah. So really what we are hyper focused on is providing the world's best engagement ring buying experience. We are in the process of working on jewelry offerings outside of bridal. So really, our goal at Wobe is to be the lifelong jeweler for our customers. We believe that starts with the engagement ring buying experience for a couple of reasons. One, it's the most significant jewelry purchase that a couple will make in their lifetime. It's typically the first jewelry purchase they'll make. And it's the most intensive, I would say. And so, our mission right now is to be able to provide an amazing experience where we earn their trust and ultimately make them, believers in Wove. And down the road, offer other jewelry offerings so that we can extend the lifetime value and the lifetime value of that customer. So really, the next things for us, we are launching an e-commerce experience in the next 2 weeks, where if a client doesn't want that fully custom experience, they can choose one of our pre-designed rings, get a replica for free, try it from home. If they like it, we'll build them, send them the real thing. If not, they can send the replica back. And then we're launching jewelry in early 2023. So about 2 months out, we will have jewelry lines listed on our site that we designed in-house for our clients that want an anniversary gift, a wedding gift, another gift to signify an important moment in their life.
I wish someone was buying me jewelry. I'd send them over to you.
Yeah.
And so the question that comes to mind is how do you remain competitive from a pricing perspective, if you've built in this additional service that clearly costs something, right?
Yeah.
You're not building plastic rings. So what's the strategy there?
You would be blown away at the amount. So the cost to acquire a customer for e-commerce jewelry companies is very high.
Yeah.
But it's around $1,000 if you're selling an $8,000 engagement ring. You can spend about $1,000 to acquire a customer, which if you're in indirect to consumer brands, that's a ton of money. And so what we're finding for ourselves is that our cost to acquire a customer from an ad spend or marketing perspective is actually lower. And the reason being is our word of mouth and referral traffic is very high because of the experience that we offer, it being one of a kind. We're actually able to lower our cost of acquisition from a digital advertising and allocate that towards this replica experience. And so really that's how we rationalize the expense of going through all of this work to build a replica ring for a customer that may or may not buy from us. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot more nuance associated with that whole question, but it was kind of curious for me. So you figured out a way to lower your cost of acquisition, and that gets rolled into the price so that you can provide that kind of experience. And do you think that that kind of experience is enough, that it's going to create a better conversion rate?
Absolutely. So our conversion rate from replica ring to final sale is about 75%, which is very high. Most jewelry stores on average will have 3 people walk in to buy an engagement ring for every 1 sale. So if you kind of correlate those two things, obviously they're a little bit different. What we found is that customers that buy an engagement ring from us, around 90% are returning for wedding bands. So our NPS score, our reviews are very, very positive. And I think it's because of the high touch experience that we offer. It is fascinating. Other jewelry companies that I'm familiar with that know what I'm building are blown away by the level of effort that we go through to satisfy each client, being through this design and replica experience. But I think, that is really what is building our brand. That's what gets people excited. And ultimately, that's what we want to be known for, that level of experience.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And what are your existing customers saying about it? Like, do they really have that sort of transformational experience? And does it solve the problems that you're hoping to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we have really high reviews from our existing customers, a very high return rate, 90% returning for wedding bands. So we feel like we are extraordinarily well equipped to satisfy our customers' needs.
Awesome. I love it. And so what are you seeing? Like, is there a migration? So you started with, a very particular niche customer. Are you starting to see that kind of ideal customer is widening now and you're getting a more broad interest base?
So we operate slightly up market from what you would expect. So the average engagement ring in the US is around $6,000. Our average engagement ring is around 10 to 12,000. We build engagement rings for less than that, but we are attracting an upstream customer, and I believe that is because of the services that we're offering.
Do you think there's opportunities for partnerships? Is that something that you see in the future?
Yeah, I think there absolutely is. One of the things that's really unique about what we are doing from a design perspective is we've kind of created a new category for jewelry designers as far as a new role. Most jewelry designers, they get hired by a Tiffany's or a Gabriel and Co. These prominent jewelry companies that you hear about hire jewelry designers, and their job is to design pieces that may or may not ever be built and featured in those stores. And what we've created is a role for jewelry designers where we're able to hire top talent from across the jewelry industry, and they work directly with clients. And that positive feedback loop, I think, has been what's allowed us to attract a lot of top talent. We've been able to attract and hire the lead jewelry designers from some top notable companies from New York and around the US. I think that's because of the role that we are offering. As far as collaborations, we want to continue to be able to collaborate with top designers from across the industry.
Yeah, interesting. And where are you finding your designers? Are they people you know already? Are you getting designers coming to you?
We are getting designers coming to us. Early on, we scalped designers. I mean, we went to top companies and we figured out, who are their designers. We made them offers that were better. And that's actually how we got some of our early top talent. But it's a small world. The jewelry industry is a small industry, and a lot of these top designers know each other. And a lot of them since the earlier days have become referrals and friends of friends, and so that's been a way for us to continue to get top talent.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that that's going to continue to serve you, obviously, as you seem to be at that sort of snowball stage where you're starting to get the momentum and you're starting to pick up the momentum, and all of the, the ecosystem is going to find you. And it sounds like, you've got the creativity to explore some new opportunities as well. So I'm really excited to see where you go.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, I have one question I ask for all of my guests, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. This show is all about kind of real stories and the things that we have to go through in order to sort of get there. What's the difference between what we hear out there in the world around being an entrepreneur and running a business, and what's actually real?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make my answer not sound too dark.
That's
honestly,
okay. It's all right.
entrepreneurship. What's that? Okay.
Dark
Well,
is okay.
yeah, my idea of entrepreneurship before doing this was, Richard Branson. I don't know if you've ever read Losing My Virginity, his one of his books, and about him starting Virgin Airlines. And we all have this idea of what entrepreneurship is, and most days are not fun. I actually wouldn't describe entrepreneurship as fun at all. I think you get to a point in entrepreneurship where you quite literally sacrifice just about everything for your idea and for your business, which sounds sad, but it's all worthwhile if you find the purpose in what you are building. And if you don't have the purpose in what you're building, it's not worthwhile because it's not fun. And so, I think what I would say to people that are interested in getting entrepreneurs is have an idea that you truly believe in. Don't make it about making money. Don't make it about, wanting to have popularity or whatever you're searching for, but really believe in what you're building, because it's really difficult to rationalize the lifestyle decisions that you make if you don't believe in what you're building.
Yeah. And I know that when I work with my clients, we always come back to like, well, who are you, right? Who are you as a person? And I think a lot of people get into the entrepreneurship journey and they're just like, oh, I'll just fit myself into all of these. I'll just do the things, the rules, right?
Yeah.
And eventually you really need to, I don't care if you're running a personal brand or you're running a business like you have, or whatever it might be, it's all comes back to, it has to be rooted in what you believe, your viewpoints, who you are as an individual. And if we can't tie back into that, I think we have a really hard time pushing, the business through to something and like maintaining through these really tough times and through things like 3 pitches a day. And I just have so much empathy for you.
Well, and to be completely transparent, my interest was never jewelry growing up.
Yeah.
And even when we started Woke, I wasn't particularly interested in jewelry. What I found a lot of, what motivates me and what gets me excited about what I'm doing, is truly getting the feedback of seeing a happy couple having gone through this experience, having purchased a ring that, is high quality, they're excited about, that is their design. That to me is what makes it worth it for me day in, day out. It's having the opportunity to serve a couple during one of the most important moments of their life and make that experience extraordinary for them. That will always be more interesting to me than jewelry and diamonds and the industry as a whole. It's those experiences and those relationships that we get to be involved in. So that might sound cliche, but for me, that is that's really where it's at for me.
And that has to be there. That's your anchor. I love it.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat today. Can you tell the listeners how they can find you?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Wolvemade.com. It's WOVEMADE.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, at wove_made. But would love for you to check us out. Look at our website, our Instagram, follow us. And if you're interested in a ring, we'd love to help you.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that all of those links are in the show notes so everyone can find you and start their own journey together with you. And so we're kind of at time. We're going to wrap up the episode, but I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to chat today with Andrew to hear more about how his business came to be, his experiences along the way, and what the future of the business entails. And thanks for tuning into this episode of the Real People, Real Business Show, where we get to real entrepreneurial stories and journeys that you can relate to. The show notes, resources, and links from this episode are available on my website and social media platforms. Thank you again for joining us today. If you've enjoyed today's content, I'd love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're on to help us share these genuine stories with an even bigger audience. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.